Good afternoon. Erev Shabbos, Kedesh, Parshas Vayikra, Chumash Vayikra, the new book, Parshas Zocher, Mitzvah Min HaTorah, to remember what Amalek did to us and to annihilate them. That needs explanation. And we're also coming from yesterday was Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. Normally Zion, others also his yarzeit. Yesterday, other Basil. Only his birthday, not his yarzeit. So it's a very special day, a very special Shabbos, Friday in between. The Rabbi said that the real birthday of every Jew is Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, because we are all part of his neshama. We have his neshama klolis, that all of us, it's all our birthday, and it's even in a higher level our birthday than our private birthday. Okay. So let's talk about the Chumash Vayikra. Is the third book. And the book basically is talking about many halachas, maximum halachas in the Chumash. Chumash Vayikra, Chumash Dvarim is repeating himself a lot. But as far as giving the first time the mitzvahs is in Chumash Vayikra. And mainly it's talking about the Mishkan, about the Beis HaMikdash. And I would say one of the main avedas, the main service in it was sacrifices. So I was asked a question by my students, what kind of a big thing that's sacrifices, to slaughter an animal, and to sprinkle his blood, and then to burn some of the meat on the altar. What is that? So the sacrifices will stay as a main thing as long as we have the Beis HaMikdash, and we have the third Beis HaMikdash, we'll go back to the sacrifices, and Gashmis, physical sacrifices. But does it make sense? Why sacrifice animals? It makes more sense to learn, makes more sense to daven, to meditate, contemplate, awaken your love for the Eibishter. Sacrifice by giving charity, helping another person, sacrifice your time, give away your time, give away from your money, from your talents. What is the idea of bringing a sacrifice? And especially the thing, the sacrifices is the name Korban, Lashon Kiruv, that how you become closer to the Eibishter to sacrifice. How do you slaughtering an animal and sprinkling the blood on the altar? Sprinkling blood inside the Mishkan. How is that bringing you closer to the Eibishter? Okay, let's go. The Rambam writes that the reason of sacrifice, Hashem Korbanos, the Jewish people came out of Mitzrayim, because they were used to have worshiping idols and bring sacrifices for the idols, animals. So you couldn't like shock them completely out of the system. Completely, sorry. You couldn't completely change them, so you had to give them something what they were used to. If somebody is addicted to something, sometimes you cannot cut them off cold turkey. You have to give them a little bit of what they used to have, and before they had it in a negative way, now they have it in a positive way. And this explanation really needs really an explanation. If the whole reason of the Korban is because the Jewish people were used to it and you couldn't cut them cold turkey to stop it, okay, so make a program of turning them off it. First, they should have one korban a day, then after a month, make one korban every second day, and that's all. But why for eternity, the whole time, of hundreds of years that they had the Mishkan Shiloh, it was 560 years approximately. First was 410 years, the second was 420 years, talking about 1,500 years. They still had to bring sacrifice because they used to be Egypt, but they forgot about it. So it means that Korbanos has to mean, I'm not going to explain so much the Rambam, but obviously something is hiding here that I think we need to continue with Korbanos. Not only because they were used to it, because we could get unused to it for so many years. And mainly, we're talking about the third Beis HaMikdash. Well, that comes almost 2,000 years of being in exile. We don't bring sacrifices. So why is the sacrifice coming back? If it's the whole reason, because the did it in Mitzrayim. So the true Beis Hamikdash should have been a place where there'd be no impurity in the world. Only godliness be revealed. So people will be able to daven properly 100%, learn Torah, Kedusha or Betar, in holiness and purity. And then that could be the Avodas Hashem. What is the idea of going to Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year? It's a mitzvah to go and slaughter animals, and sprinkle the blood, and burn the meat. Some of the meat depends what korban, if it's a korban eila, korban shlomi, some of the meat on the altar, some of the meat eaten by the kehanim, some of the meat is eaten by these Israelites even. So this idea of korban sacrifice needs an explanation. What makes such a big issue? That's not only we say someone want to bring a korban, someone for the Eibush, you feel like they want to bring a korban. That is the center of the Beis Hamikdash, is the center of the Jewish people, center of Yiddishkeit, center of serving God, and one of the main avodas would say every day, and many times a day. Officially, it's supposed to be at least twice a day, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, but they tried to bring as many korbanos as you could. People bring from Medove. Voluntary to offer sacrifices was a whole big thing. And then there was korbanos for different reasons. Korban Teda, if you want to thank the Eibush for something good that happened to you, especially certain things. It's called Pesach. Yeah, so the idea of korbanos is really needs explanation. It's very, very disturbing, and especially in the Reform, people want to make fun of the Yiddishkeit. They say, "You're longing for the Beis Hamikdash. What will happen near the Beis Hamikdash? You'll bring sacrifices, you'll slaughter animals, and sprinkle the blood. That will bring you peace of mind. That will accomplish something." I mean, sounds like it's really insulting. Now, the Ramban says a very interesting thing about sacrifices. He said that when you bring a sacrifice, you have to imagine that everything that's done to the animal should be done to me. And God, in his kindness, exchange it, that will be done to the animal, not to me. So what does it mean? First of all, why should it be done to me? Hopefully, a normal, average person shouldn't be deserved a big death penalty. And why it, and especially we want you to know that it really should be done to me. And with that, it's really accomplishing something. So why should it be done to me? And the bigger question is, I would say, how should it help to do it to the animal? Let's say if it had to be done to me. We'll find an explanation. Let's say. So how is by doing it to the animal helping me? What had to happen to me? If it had to happen to me. Remember the same idea said about Kapporas also, that only the main idea of Kapporas, Arab Yom Kippur, is to see what the sheikh is shechting the chicken. Everything that really should be done to me, and Hashem in his kindness is exchanging done to the chicken. How by doing to the chicken, if exchange for me, that would have to happen to me. Just a misunderstanding. So we need to explain that this Ramban, it's an explanation. Now the word korban is really means from Lashon karov, closeness. You have to become closer to the Eibishter. So it means through bringing a korban, you become closer to the Eibishter. I would understand if somebody is davening properly, you become closer to the Eibishter. Somebody is learning Torah, somebody is doing a favor to another Jew, especially if he's doing a big effort in helping another Jew, brings him closer. But how to bringing us an animal, slaughtering it, how you become closer to the Eibishter. I would say the shluchim in Ukraine, that they put their life in a little bit or a lot, we don't know, it depends who and where and what, in themselves out, even in dangerous places, to bring out, save Jews, children, men, women, and then to organize for them. That brings you closer to David. Makes sense. That's a sacrifice. That's a real sacrifice. A sacrifice of your convenience, a sacrifice of your security. There are shluchim who went back to Ukraine. Not only went back, shluchim who went back to Moldova and Romania and Poland, at the borders to welcome the people, and they walking more to the telephone, organizing buses of taking out every day. Buses are coming out with Jewish people from Ukraine, and the shluchim in the border organizing them food on the spot to give them food and clothing and sleeping, and then to organize for them where they want to go, what country, where they're going to stay for the next few weeks, for the next few years. So that's a sacrifice, but they take, that's a real sacrifice. Time, energy, money, and getting other people to help out. Some people gave hotels, some people gave food, some people gave immense amount of clothing to clothe the people. Some people have organized even private jets, take people to different places, or paying for, the buses are very expensive. But what is the sacrifice of bringing an animal? According to Torah, and Torah is Torah's chesed, Torah of kindness, why kill an animal? The animal for sure didn't do nothing. I have a problem that I have to have a refinement, and the Rebbe should find a way how to refine me. What is the idea of how the animal comes in here? How do you become really close to the Rebbe? So I asked, I was coming now from teaching grade 11 in Torah Academy school, girls high school. So I asked him that question, what I'm asking you. So I asked him, did you ever think about the question? He said, no, never thought about that question. Why sacrifice? I said, why didn't you have the question? So I want to say, I said to them, told them that I want to tell you the reason that he didn't have the question, not for negative reasons, for a positive reason. What do you mean positive reasons? It's a logical question. Why didn't they come up with the question? He said, by you, it's so clear that the korban is a holy of service to the Eibishter. That's not even a question. What am I bring korban? It's a tremendous kind of idea of serving the Eibishter. And I gave an example, probably used it a little bit before here. Imagine two people are watching by Zoom a surgery room in a very busy hospital in Ukraine. Out of Ukraine, people who got injured from the war. So they were watching a whole day. They're cutting people and they're sewing people and they're taking out something. They put this. It's unbelievable. So one person said, "Wow, it's unbelievable what these guys are doing. Look, they fixed his heart, they fixed his lung, they fixed his stomach, they fixed his hand, they fixed it." His mom is blown away from the kindness and the devotion of the doctors and the nurses and what's happening is mamish like he's pushed out of his kalim. He's witnessing mamish the epitome, the ultimate of goodness and kindness, and it's unbelievable. But the other guy sitting in the Zoom, in a different cubicle, he said, "What's happening? The guys are murderers. They're cutting people. They have music playing. They're making jokes. They're laughing in the middle, and they're sitting a whole day and cutting people. The mamish terrible." The same idea. They see exactly the same video, the same surgery room. When you know what's happening behind, what's a surgery room, what's a doctor, what's sickness, how to heal sickness, then you see the most positive kind of idea. So that's by you. You understand that the korban is like, you explain the details, not necessarily, but you know that is an unbelievable kind of a holy thing that brings unbelievable goodness to the world. I will try to explain it a little bit later, but I'm saying, but that's clear to you. So there's no place for a question. Just like there's no place for a question, why they cutting the person? You know why they cut him, because they want to fix him. And why be slaughter the animal? Because we want to fix the whole world, I would say. The person himself and this animal, and through the animal, all the animals. We'll see how much we'll explain that. So what we have to understand, so let's say it was disturbing question, I would say, in an emotional level, an emotional question is, why should it be done to me Really, the Abishah with his kindness change it to the animal. First, when a person deserves death penalty, cannot exchange it for an animal. If a person is murdered somebody and he deserves death penalty, so the person is obligated to give him death penalty. He cannot say, okay, we'll kill a cow or a sheep, or even 2 cows and 2 sheep, or even more, instead of you. It doesn't work that way. If that's what has to happen. So if that has to happen to me, how did it help you with the cow? So I think what we could explain is that every one of us has an animal in himself. He has black spots in himself: jealousy, anger, different kind of pleasure of sometimes to speak negative about somebody else, to put down somebody. That is part of the animal, that there's the pleasure that we have sometimes by putting on somebody talking negative lashon hara a little bit. There's an energy in that, and there is a pleasure in that. So you have here the action when a person is doing is speaking lashon hara. You have the action, the idea, the emotion here that he has vibrant. He's like excited about telling this unbelievable, beautiful lashon hara that he has about somebody, putting down somebody. And then he has the pleasure from that. Everybody like, whoa, it's not such a good story you told us. Now this is a being. This whole lashon hara with this avera that he did, with energy, with pleasure, is a body and a soul. The action is the body, and the energy and the pleasure is the soul. That has to be shechted. Shechted means has to be killed. The negativity has to be killed, and then not only be killed, has to be transformed into positive. That this energy that you have, the blood represents the energy. So you sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, means to change your energy that you had in a negative thing, to change it into a positive thing. Serving the Eibishter, helping another Jew. The meat, especially the fat that we are burning on the altar, that's representing the pleasure in doing the avera. That we have to burn on the mizbeach. Again, elevating it in the fire of the Eibishter to transform your energy, your fire that you have in yourself by nature, the Eibishter gave us, even in the animal soul. And the pleasure to have it in good things, to change it into good things. So that means, the Parshas just in a very briefly, the idea of a korban, that we're saying that we have to bring a korban. Furthermore, we know that in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when a person brought a korban for a sin that he did, korban noshama, korban chatat, b'shegeg, b'mezid, whatever. So the Levim used to play music when he brought the korban. And in good time, in the Beis Hamikdash, the music was so good that they put the person in such a stage of regretting, of tshuva, transforming, that he would almost pass out from regretting what he did there. The music was to elevate him to such a deep level of appreciation. In other words, the main thing was not the korban, the main thing was the tshuva that came with the korban, the repenting, the returning to the Eibishter, the regretting it. And they would bring it almost mamish to like kleis hanefesh, means so passing out, of almost dying. And then when we saw this coming almost to a stage of dying, they would change the music to resurrect them. The beautiful story of Friedrich of Badici, we did it also to a person that converted out of Yiddishkeit, and he did Soros Eden, that he, with singing, he almost killed them. Not negative, almost I was laying on the floor, pushed from regretting, almost died from pain and from regretting. And then he like changed the music to live music to revive him. So the idea what we are saying, that the sacrifice is a sacrifice of yourself. Mikem, Adam ki yakir mikem, you have to sacrifice from yourself. Your energy, your pleasure, and for sure your action, to bring it to sacrifice, to bring it to the Eibishter. That everything should be, your whole energy should be directed in good things. If till today you had the energy and actually pleasure to speak lashon hara, from now to speak good about people, look for good things in people, and do good. And that means you killed your previous being. As the Rambam said, when you do tshuva, you are not anymore the person before, you are the new person. The beautiful story I heard lately, but the mental foot of us. When he sat in jail, in the gulags, for doing, spreading Yiddishkeit and building mikvahs and chadorim in Russia. So he was in jail. So he said to himself, I need to do a favor to a Jew. How could I do a favor to a Jew? I don't have Jewish people around me. Even if he was in a cell, he was a cell with a few goyim. He never Jew there. So he's thinking, how could he? So he did help the goyim, whatever he could have helped them to make it feel better. He wanted to do a favor to a Jew. He didn't have what to do. So he came with a brilliant idea. To go to different people that he knows and think about the positive things that they have. Instead of thinking negative things, that means the Rambam calls it that you think negative about somebody in order to put him down, in order to make you feel better, to think positive things. And the Masich of the Friedrich Rebbe, the Machshavim, even the thinking about the positive of a person, it helps. So that's the best he was able to do. So he did that. And he was a person that had Mesiras Nefesh to help people even in the private life also. So the idea of the Korbanos is really become closer to the Eibishter. When you transform, when you slaughter your negative being, if it's in one detail, it's in two details, in a few details, and you're giving it away to the Eibishter, that's number one. Secondly, we must understand, but if you eat tonight, when you eat tonight a piece of chicken, a piece of meat, by the Shabbos meal. Now, this piece of meat was in a cow somewhere in a farm. The Rebbe helped that it came to the place where they're shechting the cows for kosher. And then the animal came out kosher. And then it came to the butcher. Then you bought the meat, or your family member bought the meat or the chicken. And that piece of meat came into her basket. And when they put on the table, you took that piece of chicken. It's all Hashgacha Pratis. That means that the spark of godliness in that piece of chicken belongs to you. That's a spark that is designated from the beginning, that you have to have that spark in yourself. Not only physically, you have the spark of godliness in yourself, that you have to elevate that spark, or elevate it from Klippe, Snega, to Kedusha, or from Kedusha in a higher level. The Rebbe said we finished all the Birurim, all that. He said that we finished the general one that we need for Mashiach to come. But privately, you still have things that you could do, as long as we still in goes for another second. Should we elevate us? So it's not the stamazay that you're doing a favor to the animal, and you're doing a favor to the spark of godliness that's in the meat, and you're doing a favor to yourself, or your neshama. There's a story that in Hommel, some people call it Gommel. I think the people that couldn't say the hay say a gimel, so called Gommel. But the name. So Isaac Hommel was one of the biggest Ge'enim, giants, geniuses in that time. He's talking about the time of the Alter Rebbe. He was the Chassidus of the Alter Rebbe, and the Mittel Rebbe, and the Tzemach Tzedek. He was the Rov of Hommel. And the butcher came with him with a question, a piece of meat, if it's kosher or not. There's something looked funny there. So you see that the rabbi is opening and cutting from here and looking from here, and takes out one book and takes another book. Mamish like saying that for a while, he's like really trying to find it, make it kosher, but it wasn't working so easy. So he says, Rabbi, you know what? I'll sell it to a goy. I won't make as much profit, or maybe I will even lose a little bit of money, but it's nicht gefährlich. Why we have to torture yourself so much to try to kasher, leave it. So that's what you are saying. But you know what the animal is saying? He's saying, please find a way to make me kosher. I should be eaten by Jew, Shabbos meal, do a mitzvah, and then with the energy of that to do more mitzvahs, act of goodness and kindness, more mitzvahs. He said, I don't want to have a court case with with these sparks of godliness in this meat. That said, why didn't you find that you could have found a heter for me if you try hard enough, and then because you pushed me out. So it's not a question of shechting them like surgery. Two people are cutting a person. One is out of cruelty, one is out of positivity. Depends how you're looking on the idea. The Chaim Vital brings, there's the name of the Arizal. that if you don't learn Pnimis HaTorah, if you don't learn the secrets of Torah, then it's when you learn the mitzvahs without Pnimis, without the secrets of Torah, without Chassidus, it's actually the secretion of Hashem's name. And it's a chilul Hashem, it's the desecration of Hashem's name and the mitzvahs. And he gives an example. He said that coming Rosh Hashanah, it's a day of judgment. So therefore, what do we have to do? Take a shiur. The Rabbi is sitting on the throne of judgment, on the mood of judgment, on the chair of judgment. Everything is judgment now. Gvura. You take the shiur and you blow the shiur, till it blows. God gets up from the throne of judgment and sits down on the throne of mercy, rachamim, and we have a good year. He said, that sounds like a joke. That's embarrassing. The Rabbi is sitting on the chair of judgment, and because you take a horn from a cow and you blow, make noise, the God will get up and sit in the other one. If you're looking on the shallow, on the superficial, and the physical idea, it doesn't make sense. When you learn Chassidus, you understand that he's playing the shiur is a kol pnimo, inner cry out from the depth of your heart that you want to become closer to the Eibishter, you want to return to the Eibishter. And this is just, and maybe the horn of the animal is because we have connected to our animal in the horn is a very hard thing, and we're breaking out of that. And it's a different thing. So it's not blowing of the, it's like the surgery. It's two ways of looking at the surgery. Even seeing people cutting people or people cutting people. Yes, we're blowing a horn, but it's not a physical thing. This is a spiritual experience that has to be, and we saw it by the Rabbi clearly. The face of the Rebbe before blowing the shiur, especially when he blew the shiur, it was mamish, the godliness was shining in such a way that sometimes I felt I'm going to die. It was too much revelation of godliness to see that. He was blowing a simple shiur, physical shiur. But you saw that it was mamish, the whole blowing, the whole experience was mamish like the most godly experience I could say that I ever experienced in my life. The other experience is also with the Rabbi, but I'm saying, but shiur was something much Parshas. But there was a danger of Parshas having kleis and nefesh. You could die from that. It was too much revelation, I would say. So that is the idea of the sacrifices. What we bring korbanos to the Eibishter, to become closer to the Eibishter, that we're saying that we sacrifice, became korban, we have to sacrifice from yourself. And yes, the animal that is you bring is not only a symbol of your animal that in you, obviously must have a connection, the spark, just like the piece of meat that you eat, that spark of godliness has a connection to you. The Baal Shem Tov says, Re'evim gam tzmeim, the person is hungry and also thirsty. Nafsham bohem tesad. Really, why you're hungry? Because there is the spark of godliness in the glass of water that you need, that's your shlichus, it's your mission, it's your idea to elevate that. And that's why you're hungry and thirsty to have that piece of meat and that piece of glass of water or juice, whatever you're drinking, in order to elevate. So the animal that you bring to the Beis Hamikdash, it's a tremendous favor to the animal. It's a tremendous favor. It says you're elevating the whole animal kingdom. You elevate with that korban. And furthermore, the main thing that has a deep connection to your animal soul. Your animal soul, the energy of the sparks in God of your animal soul and the korban, very connected. And that's why you're able to elevate and transform the energy in yourself, the sparks of life in your animal soul. It's convenient completely to transform it into godliness. Okay, so that's the idea, what you're saying, the idea of korbanos. Now let's talk for a few minutes to the other idea of korbanos, that Shaul HaMelech, we make it very short. Shaul HaMelech was told to annihilate the nation of Amalek. Everybody, people, animal, everything. And he had mercy on the animals. Why? The kosher animals. You want to bring sacrifice to the best, beautiful. The korban says to bring from the best of yourself. And the rest. So he did not kill them. And then he left Agag Melech Amalek, the king. And because of that, what came out from this Agag, from Shaul HaMelech trying his best, says, I fulfilled what Hashem told me in the best way. Not only I killed everybody, but even left over the king and the animals that we be able to bring a sacrifice from the animals. Nobody wanted to do with the king, but he wanted also something positive. And from that came out Haman, and from that came out the decree to annihilate the Jewish people. What's the logic of that? Because Shaul HaMelech made a mistake. Let's say he made a mistake. Let's say he shouldn't have made a mistake, but he made a mistake. Because Shmuel HaNevi tells him, to listen to the Eibishter, what to do is better than the best sacrifices. Sacrifice is a spiritual experience. To listen practical, the Eibishter says, doing what the Eibishter says, that's much higher. That's the essence of the Eibishter. But because of that, we deserve 500 years later to have a decree of annihilate the Jewish people. So it's very short, I would say the explanation is, if your commitment to the Eibishter is from a level of appreciation, understanding, and emotional appreciation, no matter how deep your appreciation and love for the Eibishter will be, and your awe for the Eibishter, and your understanding of the Eibishter, it will run out of itself. It's limited. You will not last forever. You give it enough time, give it enough challenges, and it will dissolve, and it will not last. And that's what happened. Because Shaul HaMelech, as the king of the Jews, represented and the connection of the Jewish people based on that time till story of Mordechai and Esther and Purim was based on appreciation and love and understanding, but on the highest level, but it ran out. Therefore, what they need to have the Mesiras Nefesh. But Purim is the only time that the whole Jewish nation had absolutely self-sacrifice, ready to die and not considered converting out. They reveal the essence connection between the Jew and the Eibishter. And that then you bring a Korban now is not only based on the level of your appreciation, it has to be permeated with the essence, oneness and connection to the Eibishter, that no matter what, for infinite time and infinite challenges, cannot destroy it. And once we went through all that, as we say, we're coming from Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, and it's a Chedesh Shanepach Lamb, the month that was transformed from a negative, Yogim, from the decree of Haman, to a Chedesh of Geula, Chedesh of Sassen, the Simcha, of holiday, should be immediately now, Erev Shabbos Parshas Zocher, the revelation of Mashiach now, but Gash may be all being absorbed together with all the Ukrainian Jews, all the Jews of Russia, all the Jews around the world, bring the Karbonas and see Moshe Rabbeinu, see and then Rabbi Melech Mashiach now Mamish. A good Shabbos, a good call to